All praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Makar Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the nation of Israel. This is going to be a lesson talking about how when all hell breaks loose, the neighbor is going to be against neighbor. All right, and going into the scriptures as well and speaking on why, or just talking briefly on why the scriptures say that we're supposed to control our tongue, man, and the scriptures like Proverbs 15:1. Proverbs 15:1, where it says, a strong answer turns away wrath, but strong words stir it up, roughly paraphrasing, man. Because this video, what I watched here, is which people can watch it if they want to, but if you're going to watch the video, if you want to watch the video before you hear me speak, then now is the time to stop the video, watch the video first, and then come back and watch the things that I'm going to say in this lesson, because I'm going to be saying what happens in this video. All right, so what you can see on this screen, right, is the two guys at the front of the screen. That there's a background, and that's the video that I'm going to be talking about, but these two guys are doing their commentary on whatever's gone on in this, right? But what's happening in the video that they've got in the background, right, is that the two people that you can see closest on the screen is a man and a woman that are husband and wife, and then their neighbor across the other side of the street is their is their neighbor, and there was a snowstorm, right? So the couple was shoveling snow off their house and dumping it onto their neighbor's property, which is an annoying thing to do, because if you know that there's a storm, why would you do that, right? Why would you do that? And then the neighbor says to them that they're scum. He calls them scummy mother effers, right? So then they spaz out now because he said that to them, and the man starts threatening him. The woman starts coming across the road. She starts running her mouth at him. The man starts running at his mouth at him and threatening the guy, right? He says put to the guy, put your shovel down, and pretty much threatening him and trying to bait him into a fight. And then the neighbor runs into his house and is going back into his house, and then they're still saying things to him, still running their mouth to him. The woman's still saying things to him as well, right? And he's calling them scumbags still, right? Because they was shoveling snow on his property. Now they didn't deny it, and they was doing it, right? Which there's no need for them to do that. So then the husband says to the guy, he says, "I'll make your life a living hell, living around here." So then that stirs up anger in the guy, and he says, "What?" And he says, "You heard me, right?" And then the woman still starts saying things as well. So then now the man comes out his house, and that's what you can see here, right? That's the shot that you can see here. The man comes out his house with a gun in his hand, and the husband sees the gun, and his wife sees the gun, and his wife actually was behind the husband a couple of steps back. And when she sees the gun, she walks up closer and says, "Go ahead." To which then the man with the gun, who you can see across the other side of the street, he begins to start shooting shots from the gun, and he misses 6 shots. Now, whether those 6 shots were warning shots or not, or whether those 6 shots he just missed it from such close range, even considering how big these people are, because they're kind of overweight, it would be difficult for him to miss them from there. But he shoots 6 shots anyway. To which then the wife says of the couple, she says it's on camera, but she clearly hasn't understood the threat. The 7th shot hits the husband, right? And I think the 8th or 9th shot hits the wife, right? To which she's still running her mouth and doesn't realize the situation that she's in, and she's still swearing at the guy. She still hasn't humbled down. She's still swearing at him, right? He goes up to the woman and shoots her, tries to shoot her in the head 2 more times. The first shot misses, and the second shot hits her in the head, to which point she's still alive, right? He then follows the husband and shoots him, right? Or tries to shoot him, but I'm not exactly sure, and he realizes that he's run out of ammo, and the gun can hold 12 shots, right? To which then the man runs back in his house, and the woman's still swearing at him, right? The man's already said after he got shot once, he said he starts screaming out, saying he shot me, call the police, as if he didn't see that he had a gun, walking up to him, and didn't decide to run away after antagonizing the man, right? So then the guy goes back in his house, comes back out of the house with an assault rifle now, right? He comes back out of the house with an assault rifle. I think they call them AR-15s over in America. That's like a rifle that they're allowed to have over there. And he goes over to the wife and he gets close point blank range to her and he says, you should have kept your fucking mouth shut. Shoots her, like I think twice, right? Then he goes up to the husband, and the husband had previously called him a pussy, like about 5 times in a row, which is what pretty much stirred up the guy's anger to make him come out the house. And the final thing that he says to the husband is, I'm a pussy, huh? And shoots him and kills them, right? And then goes back into the house, and you already know how Esau does it, right? He then kills himself, so that he thinks in his mind that he's escaped the judgment. But the point is, right, the scriptures speak on how all hell's gonna be breaking loose, man. And a lot of people, especially women, they're not prepared for this kind of thing, man, because that woman was saying to him as he's shooting the gun at her and her husband, she said, it's on camera. And I'm thinking to myself, you're obviously not aware of what's happening because this man's trying to kill you. And she didn't have the brains to know and understand that that's happening. And the reason why she was running her mouth and saying all the things she was saying is because she had her husband there to back her up, regardless of whatever she said. And she thought, well, if it gets physical, my husband could beat him up. And she probably didn't even know that that man had a gun in his house. She didn't know, man. And women in general are not prepared, don't ever think that violence is going to come their way. And that man, he thought that the violence was going to be on a level that he can handle. That's why when he saw that the man had the shovel in his hand, he said, put the shovel down, right? And the man did put the shovel down, but then he picked something else up. And this goes to show that when all hell breaks loose, man, these people are going to be savaging each other off, man, because neighbors, let's say the man didn't do that to his neighbor that day, he would have definitely did something to them in the day of the Lord. He would have definitely did something to them in the day of the Yahweh's wrath, man. This is 2 chapter 15, and Salakia for all the talking, but I had to just give a description of the video, and you can watch it yourself anyway, so that you can see it for yourself, man. It's quite a raw video. I'm surprised it's even on YouTube, to be honest with you. 2 chapter 15 and verse 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and the destruction draweth nigh. And one people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands, for there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their action shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. So people are going to be able to get away with whatever they want to get away with, man, in the times that is coming, according to the 16th verse. Verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. So when people can't travel out, the people that they're going to have to worry about are the people that live in close proximity to them, man. And there's a lot of people that have made enemies of their neighbors for no reason. There's a lot of people that have did that, man. There's a lot of people that was snitching on their neighbors during the COVID lockdown. There's a lot of people that snitch on their neighbors in general, call the police on their neighbors falsely. There's a lot of people that do these kind of things, man, argue with their neighbors over trivial things. And in that time to come, their neighbor's going to be against them, and their neighbor's going to remember that stuff, even though they might have forgot. They might have forgot because that's something that they continually do all the time, but their neighbor didn't forget, though. What was that movie? 1 second, Salakia. Yeah, in the movie, I was saying, in the movie Purge, right? You had the one character, man, Diego, right? And he breaks down the door of his neighbor, his female neighbor, right? And he's holding a grudge on that female neighbor because every single day he said she passes him by like he ain't worth nothing. But he uses other wording. But I'll try and not do that in this lesson. But he said every night you pass by me like I ain't shit. And then he's like foaming at the mouth. He comes into her house with not one button done up, right? And he's in the house to cause her as much grievance as possible, man, right? Because he held a grudge to her in what he saw as disrespecting him, right? And he's prepared to do whatever he wants to do in that day, man. And he's saying that he's not going to have mercy on him, pretty much, when you watch that scene, man. If you go to the internet, go on YouTube and type in Diego Purge scene or something like that, and you'll see what I'm talking about, man. But he held a grudge on his female neighbor from when how he felt disrespected by her, man. But she didn't even know that he felt that way. You see? And there's a lot of women out there and a lot of men out there that they've made enemies, and they don't understand this thing, man, because they think that the world's sweet. Just like how them two neighbors thought that it was. But then after that guy did what he did to them, he escaped the judgment in this lifetime anyway, because he killed himself. But Yahweh pretty much made that be an open and closed case because he killed them, right? And what did the scriptures say? He that killeth must be killed with the sword. So he killed them and he got killed, but he did it his own self. So that's the end of that case. But Yahweh used that situation to punish those people for their evil that they was doing, for them bothering a man in his own home, right? And then having a problem with that man speaking on how they're bothering him in his own home, and then further telling him that they're going to make his life even worse while he's living there. And he wasn't accepting that on that day, man. He didn't accept that. And neither would he allow any of the neighbors to help, because when he saw that other people was trying to help them, he almost was aiming his gun at them like he was going to shoot them as well. But they ran off. So then after he did what he did to the people he wanted to get, he didn't do nothing to nobody else. So he had anger for just those two people. And once his wrath was sufficed, he took himself out, which shows that judgment was specifically for those two people, man. Verse 18, for because of their pride the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. So people are going to be destroying their neighbors' houses because of the lack of bread anyway. But if somebody's got a neighbor that they don't like, they already was looking for an excuse to do something to that neighbor. And there's a lot of these people in this world are not likable anyway, man. They're fake, they're evil, they're wicked, and the scriptures is clear. Because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. So when there's no food, people are really going to be evil towards each other, man. They're really going to be evil. And that's when women's pride is going to drain out, man. All these women that are running around at the moment right now, their pride is going to drain out, man. Isaiah chapter 32 and verse 9. Rise up, ye women that are at ease. Hear my voice, ye careless daughters. Give ear unto my speech. Many days and years shall ye be troubled, ye careless women. For the vintage shall fail, the gathering shall not come. So when there's a situation where there's men running around mad like that, shooting their neighbor, shooting women with the same aggression, right? Because this man had equally, in fact, I guess you could say to a certain degree, man, he had more anger towards the woman, man, because he shot her at close range twice, and he shot the husband first. But he obviously must have assessed the situation, and if he shot the wife first, then the husband's gonna rush at him. So he shot the husband first, right? And then he aimed his anger real mad at the woman, man, and told her before he killed her, you should have kept your effing mouth shut. So that was personal, man. Her judgment was personal, and he shot her from close range twice, man. He shot her from close range, tried to shoot her in the head one time, but it must have hit the top of her head or something. I don't know what happened. I ain't no gun expert, but that was brutal how he got them two people, man. That was extremely brutal what he did to them. And they had a 15-year-old disabled son in the house, right? And didn't have the wisdom to be like, you know what, let us humble down, man, because we've got a disabled son across in our house. Let's not cause problems with our neighbor that lives right across the street from us. But some people don't even have that sense, man. They'll bother their neighbor, or they'll try and get all up in their neighbor's lives. Leave them alone, man. And that's why we're not even supposed to be this close to people anyway. It's against the scriptures for house to be builded upon house. I'll get that in a second, in fact. Verse 10. Many days and years shall be troubled, ye careless women, for the vintage shall fail, the gathering shall not come. And women are careless, man. They'll argue with any man, even though they know they can't do nothing to him, if it was to turn physical. But the reason why they do it is because they know that they can call the police, and then more than likely, eventually, some man that can overcome the man that she's running her mouth to will show up. Or if not, 5 men or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or however many it takes will show up to defend her, even though she was in the wrong. But the time's getting ready to where that's not going to happen no more. And there's been cases like that. There's more cases I could find of the one that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, by where the man did what he did, and then Yahweh just used him to dish out that judgment, and then made the judgment be ended, because the man killed and his blood was shed. So that's the end of that as a judgment now. But people don't think, man. Verse 11. Tremble ye women that are at ease. Be troubled ye careless ones. Strip you and make you bare, and gird sackcloth upon your loins. Now, if that kind of stuff was happening every single day, who cares about a BBL in that time? Who cares about a woman's BBL at that time? Who cares if a woman smells nice at that time? Who cares if you have to take a woman to Salt Bay, or if a woman won't date you unless you take her to Salt Bay, or if you spend unless you got 50,000 in the bank? Who cares about that kind of stuff in that day? Who cares really about a woman's attractiveness levels when there's hardly any food on the shelf? If a man's got to choose between eating food and an attractive woman, he's going to rob the woman that's attractive's food if she's got some. And women don't think that this will happen, and they don't think that a man will do that. They'll think you're simp. But I'm here to say right now, that would not be the case. In a time where all hell's breaking loose, a man doesn't care about how fine a woman is. He cares about him staying alive, man. That's the thing that matters in them kind of times, man. And if you don't believe that, look up what happened to, I believe it's several, I think it was German women. What happened to German women by Russian soldiers during World War II, I believe. Just look up what happened to them, man. And tell me that people care about women's rights during a time of chaos. Tell me that then. Verse 11. Tremble ye women that are at ease, be troubled ye careless ones, strip you and make you bare, and gird sackcloth upon your loins. They shall lament for the teats, for the pleasant fields, for the fruitful vine. So in the time that's coming, man, women are not going to be proud, and men are not going to be proud neither. Because that guy, as soon as that first bullet hit, didn't have the sense to run away. He didn't have the sense to run away when he saw that his neighbor had a gun, right? And then he didn't have the sense to run away after his neighbor had shot at him 6 times. He literally shot at him 6 times in the video, man, and he didn't run away. He just stayed there as every single bullet went off. And then as soon as the bullet hit him, now he all of a sudden realized it's real. He didn't realize it was real when he started hearing the gunshots. And then his wife's there talking about it's on camera. As if the man cared at that point, man. And she was probably still thinking, in her last moments, man, she was probably still thinking, oh, when the police come, I'm going to make sure he gets arrested. But the police didn't get the chance to show up and save her. The ambulance didn't get the chance to come, man. And that's a very good video to watch, to see why the scriptures say that we need to control our tongue, man. And that goes much more for women, because women are not physically as strong as men. Women are the weaker vessel. Let me read this, Jeremiah chapter 30 and verse 6. Ask ye now and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins, as a woman in travail? And all faces are turned into paleness. So what is going to be happening that's going to cause for men's faces to be turned to paleness, and for men to be crying in travail like a woman that's pregnant? What is it that's going to be happening? Well, what evils are people going to see? How many times are people going to see the same evil during the day of the Lord? And that's why ultimately, man, the scriptures say wisdom and knowledge of the scriptures is going to be the stability of the times in that day. Not how tough you are, right? Because being tough don't mean nothing. Being tough ain't going to mean nothing, man. And this is going to be the last scripture. Isaiah chapter 33 and verse 6. And wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and strength of salvation. The fear of Yahweh is his treasure. Right? That's what's going to be the thing to get us through in that time, man. The fear of Yahweh. And I'm gonna end the lesson there, man. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect to the nation of Israel. Shalom.